Hello everybody, how you doing? I hope you're well wherever you are in the world, and if you aren't, then I hope that we can provide some light entertainment for you. I'm just going to check that I have the volume turned off on my phone so it's not talking to me and coming through on the microphone and you get two lots of sound instead, and also on my headphones, which are under my desk here, but still pretty close to the microphone, just in case. Right, that done, all the rattling out of the way. I'm sorry, we've got weird weather at the moment. It is, yes, it's winter in New Zealand still. It's raining outside and it's a bit windy, so I've got a little bit of noise in the chimney, which is 2 meters away from me. Sorry, just checking. I thought it was distracted slightly by something on my shoulder, but not a spider, not a bug, so we're all okay. Right, so what are we up to? We're currently reading Doctor Dolittle. He's got away from the people who want money out of him over in England, in his village of Puddleby on the Marsh, and he's now in Africa because he's been asked to come and be a doctor for some monkeys that are ill. In the kingdom of the monkeys, there's a lot of monkeys getting ill. So that's what we've been reading about. I'm trying to think. I do have a jigsaw puzzle sorted out for today. I'm trying to think of which one it is. Oh, yeah. Sorry, just trying to remember which one it was, but it was all of like 10 minutes ago that I sorted it out. Anyway, what else is going on? I'm sure this thing's going on. I've been busy today already. I had to go in and do grocery shopping, and oh, I've just remembered I put a load of washing in the washing machine and I haven't taken it out, and I'm certain it's finished. So I'll have to do that after I've finished here. So groceries sorted. Thankfully it was click and collect, but I still had to do extra bits and pieces as well. Went to the butcher's, got home, discovered that one of the things I got from the butcher's had a date on it that was a little bit, so I had to phone them up, and I don't like talking on the phone, so that was sorted. Oh, did some other phone things too. I do a lot of phone work for my dad who's in his 80s, and so he was trying to sort out something to do with his hearing aids and his insurance and all that sort of stuff. And they couldn't find any record of him having insurance with this company. And so therefore they didn't want to do anything to help him. So he'd asked me if I could do something about it, including finding on his bank details what he needed to prove that yes, he did actually pay them for his insurance on a regular basis. And so I did that, and then I had to sit on the phone on hold for about 10 minutes, and I gave up on that. So I tried again a bit later, and I got through to the right person who was able to check it for me and found the information and was able to accept my acting on his behalf. So things are sorted there. So it's sort of made up for the fact that I hate talking on the phone, the fact that it did work out. So just keeping busy, too busy as usual. What else have we got going on? Not a lot, really. Not a lot going on, thankfully. I like it when it's nice and quiet. I will have to do some more photography a bit later on in the week. Oh, yeah, I didn't read on Monday because I had to go, and I thought I was going to have to take my dad to the dentist down in the city, but I couldn't because I had to go and attend a committee meeting, an annual general meeting for the park that's next door to us, which has the donkeys on. And I'm on both committees, the committee for looking after the park and the committee for looking after the donkeys. And they've finally recognised, because council used to say you needed to have a steering committee for the park from within the local community, and the park having come in, half of the park having come from my grandparents giving the land. They had right from the start had a family representative on the committee, and now the council has finally, after I don't know how many years, changed its mind and said we don't actually need to have a committee to look after it, because we see them more as kind of like clubs, because most of the other parks don't, the local committees probably don't get quite as involved as our one does. Anyway, so the arrangement was, let's see if we can join these two organisations together, because one of them is actually an incorporated society, because we're doubling up on a lot of things, and that had to go through an annual general meeting with a proposal for doing it, having a vote on it and a whole lot of things like that. And there was a bit of concern that maybe there would be some opposition because there had been in the past, but it went through all okay. And I'm still the family representative because nobody else from the family turned up to contest it, my role in any way. My immediate family, I know, are all okay with me being involved because they don't want to have to do it. Anyway, so the donkeys are still being looked after, and so is the park. Yeah, yeah, and the reason we have donkeys in this park, and they are the official residents of the park, is because when the park was created, when my grandmother gave the land, the donkeys were part of the gift of the land, and so therefore they have the right to live there. Yes, it's quite unusual for a city, well, a park that's looked after by the city works team and all those sort of contractors and things like that. It's not one of the farm parks, which we do actually have some of in our region. Anyway, that's probably a little bit too much information, but we're still getting there. We're still getting there. And that's one of those things that just sort of takes all of my brain space. And so I had that meeting on Monday, which meant that I couldn't be reading to you because there's no way I could be in two places at once, try as hard as I might. And yes, I am still wearing the cat's ears because we are still reading Doctor Dolittle. And I have another something to wear on my head if we get to that part of the book today. So what are we going to discuss now? I've got a jigsaw puzzle lined up. I'm just looking over on my other browser window to see if there's anything. I did actually queue up some pictures for today's reading, so that's good. I feel like I'm kind of ahead of it. I did remember to turn chat on for you folks, so that's good too. There's been some behind the scenes stuff not specific to my my reading in my channel that has been in process. It hasn't been released yet, but that'll come through when it comes through, and I'll let you know when that comes through. What do we got? I'm sure there was something else I was going to tell you about. No, I can't think. I'm sure there was. No, my mind has gone blank. It's like not like a cleanly washed blackboard, more like somebody's gone along with the duster and just rubbed roughly over it and it's left chalk all over the place and you can't read anything, but you know there was something there. That's what happens in my brain. I do. Oh yeah, we changed over the system for how tags work on our channels, just because we didn't really have a say in it. That's just one of those things that Twitch went and did. But because of that, and mine had disappeared, and so they weren't on one of my recordings. Sadly, it was a little bit of a nuisance when I discovered that was the case. So it meant that I actually had to go back and put them all in place again and add an extra one or two, which we're getting there. It'll take a little while before people get the hang of that. One of the cool things, if you've had frustrations with trying to figure out how to tag yourself, is that you can make up your own tags. One of the disadvantages of that is unless people who are wanting to find you and the sort of thing you do think of those same words that you chose for making your tags, they're still not going to find you. So I've gone with the existing tags that I used to have because they were the generic ones that were made available, and people are familiar with those. But in addition, I have added in, I think I added in something. I'm trying to think of what I had. I can see it here if I scroll down. Tags. Codex. I put in Codex. And I am going to actually add in an extra tag here as well. Just because sometimes that's a way that people can't think of it. Right, I've also put in Kiwi on mine. Because I'm a Kiwi, I'm in New Zealand. And we call ourselves Kiwis. No, not the fruit. We nickname ourselves after the birds, which is what the fruit is referenced in its name. So Codex is the group of public domain book readers on Twitch that have got together and agreed that we will be encouraging and supportive of one another and also just to sort of help other people to realize that you can actually read books that aren't still within copyright. There's a wealth of books that are no longer within copyright that can be read, can be performed, which technically what we do here on Twitch is a performance, can be recorded and disseminated, which is what happens effectively on YouTube, where it's a recording that's available for anyone to access without violating anyone's copyright terms, without taking finances away from the original authors or their publishers. I mean, yeah, the publishers, if they're still publishing the books 150 years after they were originally published, are still making money off them, but the author is not, and nor is their family, their estate. So yeah, think books go into public domain, so Codex readers read these books, and I'm part of the Codex team. And so therefore I have, and the reason I'm telling you all this, even if everybody here already knows about it, is because some people will come along and watch these videos afterwards. I know they do, because the numbers are of my overseas viewers who come along and read them when I'm not live is quite high. And the same with on YouTube. And this part of what I'm talking about will be available on YouTube. I don't trim it out. So I'm going to give you the Codex link, and that's for our Discord server. And it's not just for the readers, it's also for anyone else who's interested in books, interested in reading, finding out about these sort of things, getting into discussions about all sorts of stuff. We've got a no worry, Kariki Mod. Great to have you here. So we've got a book club which currently is in recession because it's summer holidays in the Northern Hemisphere, which is where the majority of our readers are. You can talk to yourself about that sort of thing. Sorry, I'm just talking to somebody who's in chat. For those of you who are watching on YouTube and wondering why I've got the giggles. So the Codex readers get together over on, yeah, I know you're not talking to me. The Codex readers get together and it's arranged through Discord, and then we do it as a presentation on Twitch. There is a book club. We will read through a book in the month run up to when they have book club. As I said, it's in recession at the moment because it's summer vacation, summer holidays in the Northern Hemisphere for most people. But then there'll be questions posted and things like this, and then there'll be a discussion and observations that people have made to do with the book that has been read in the book club sessions before then, and it'll be done live on Twitch, and each of the readers who is participating will actually have their stream on Twitch, and it will have the other readers, so you'll get like a checkerboard of readers who will either read a section of it out loud or make observations on things that they noticed, or ask questions about it and share opinions and that sort of thing. Just a book club, but it's online and it's on Twitch, and it's to do with public domain books, and it'll be about a specific book. Apparently there's also a movie club, but I don't know anything about that. Anyway, so that's Codex, and the link I just gave you is for the Codex Discord. Now, at the moment, if you go below my video window when I'm live, if you go below my main page thing, on my About page, that's it. On my About page, there's a section that says Codex, and there's a list there of the different Codex readers' Twitch channels. And if you go to each of those, you can follow them and you can subscribe to them, and you can also listen when they're reading, watch when they're reading too. They don't read all the time. Most of the readers, a lot of them will play games and do other things like that too. I don't think we've got anyone who does any straight singing and music sessions or straight arts and crafts sessions, but we do have people who play a lot of other games as well as reading. So not all of these streams will be reading streams. But yeah, give them a follow, especially Glacier Nesta, and also Soft Spoken. Both of those where we would love to help them to actually get to affiliate status, because some people want to become Twitch affiliates because they think they're going to make lots of money off it. You don't. I haven't made anything yet. I haven't yet hit the threshold to be able to make any money. But what it does do is it means if you've got a Discord server, you can get a flow through of information from your Twitch channel through to Discord, so that people who have certain status on your Twitch channel can also have that status on your Discord server. And there's a whole lot of other supposedly minor features, but they can actually be quite useful and quite helpful for you if you are have reached Twitch affiliate level. So to get to Twitch affiliate level, you need to be watching them to help them to have enough viewers. That's the thing a lot of us as readers find hard to do, is to get enough people watching at the same time, chatting in the chat, and things like that for long enough. It doesn't have to be super long, but long enough that that eventually Twitch is going to say, oh, you're actually got a decent audience, we're going to support you, we're going to let you go into this next level up, instead of just being someone who streams once every year, 6 months, and that's it. They don't bother offering that sort of facility, that sort of tier to people who aren't going to actually be interacting with their audience and things like that. So that's Codex. That's something a little bit about the people who are part of Codex, and why I would love you to go over to those 2 specific channels and give them a follow, and when they are streaming next, to join in, to be there, to listen, to contribute, to ask questions if it's appropriate and things like that, even if they're not actually reading, even if they're just playing a game. And it can make it a lot more fun too when you've got people there, rather than just feeling like you're talking to an echoey, empty room by yourself, entertaining yourself. I'm quite happy to do that. I've been doing it for like the last 2 years, and only in the last few months have I actually really had significantly people turning up and actually being part of what's going on. And it does make it a lot more fun, and I'm pretty sure that people can tell that I have been enjoying myself, but I'm also quite happy with my own company. I don't actually feel like, oh no, it's not fair, nobody supports me. I don't have any of that sort of reservations about it. I also know that for me, I will be putting my videos over onto YouTube, and I have people who I've made friends with over there through other streaming situations, who really enjoy being able to watch the stories, because they're stories that are older than their generation, and they have discovered that it's a whole other world of things to be able to listen to and imagine. What you will find with the other Codex readers is we read a really wide variety of books. There are old horror stories, there are old fairy tales like Japanese fairy tales, and I think there's some from other cultural backgrounds and things like that too. There are classics, there are ones that most of us have never ever heard of. Some of them are long books, some of them are short books, some of them are poetry, and some people are also reading their own writing because they are allowed to, because they own the copyright of it. That the only books that will get read that are still within copyright are ones that we have the express copyright permission to read. So whether it's because the author is the reader and has given themselves permission, or somebody has received permission from the actual author or the author's estate or the author's publisher to read it. Otherwise, no, we don't do it. But you'll also find that, as I said before, a lot of us as readers will also do things like playing games. I don't tend to yet, because most of the games that I play I'm too casual with them, and I don't play exciting games. I play point and click, finding puzzle type adventure games, which I don't know that there's that much of an interest in. And I usually do it just as a way of just relaxing rather than actually engaging with other people when I do. Some of the books that are read are actually children's books. As far as I know, I'm the only Codex reader who only reads children's books. It's not a problem. It's just a statement that if you're looking for other readers who only read children's books, you probably won't find them specifically within the Codex group of readers. But they may know some other readers who do read children's books. I don't know, ask questions. Get on the other channels and talk. Get into conversations with other people, not just with the streamer themselves, but also with the other people who are there on their channel, the other people within the community. Right, I'm just checking to see if there's anything else that I've forgotten about. Oh, and thank you for the follow, souls. Thank you. I do appreciate it. And you will now have access to 5 emotes that I made. I don't think of myself as being a particularly artistic person, but it was lots of fun to be able to put them in there. Yes, there's one of them, one of these ones, one of my typical ones. I've managed to develop my own style of emotes, not quite the way most people do them. I like the really cute cartoon ones, but I can't draw for peanuts. I tried doing a modified version of a photograph into a cartoon style one. Didn't work very well. It kind of works, but it was only because the actual photograph was so extreme that it kind of worked. So I found a way to actually modify photographs, just actual photographs, to make them work. And I really need to do some more. Anyway, what else? I'm going to give you a couple of commands here just so it gives you some information. No, not that one. We'll try that one. There you go. Just ignore that other one. Thankfully, it didn't say anything. And that one. So, right, that's just a little bit of, it's going to come. It'll just take a while. We'll try the shorter version. There it is. It's meant to work. Right, that's just hi from me, and where else some of the other places you'll find me on the internet, mainly Instagram and Twitter. I do occasionally chat with people on both of those places. In fact, most of my earlier days talking with people, actually chatting with people, was on Twitter. I got to know a really wide bunch of people. Some of them were high in the tech industry in New Zealand, which is how I ended up being the only female moderator on a specifically New Zealand tech forum, set of forums. We gave advice to people all around the world, but it was originally set up specifically for the New Zealand tech community and anyone else who was interested. And I was the female moderator over there. I'm now a moderator emeritus, which I've never had emeritus after my name for anything before, so it's like, oh, that's me. Anyway, what else? I'm sure there are other bits and pieces I was going to tell you about, and I can't remember what they were. What about we get on with reading, hey? We don't really need to do lots of extra chit-chat about stuff. I'll just have a quick look through. I will give you a shout out. I will give you a shout out for and I'm hoping, yeah, that went through Jonathan's Gamecast. He was here just before. I'm not sure if he's still here. It doesn't really matter whether he is or not, but he's not in Codex, but he is another person who reads online. What he reads most of the time when he's reading instead of gaming is historic documents, court reports, historic letters, journals and other books that were written at the time, specifically to do with the Tudor period of English history, English and Scottish history, because he's got in mind a game that's based on the actual history at the time. And so he's giving himself all this extra information to fill it in, and often he will read through these original documents, digital copies of, but he will be reading them online. So if you ever want to find out how they said some things, what the words looked like, the way they used to write them down, check him out. It's quite intriguing. Sometimes we'll try and puzzle out what a specific word will mean, because they're not edited documents. They're not abridged in any way or anything like that. So they're actually using language the way it was written at the time. Yes, it's been transcribed into typeface instead of handwritten, but it's the way it would have been at the time, as immediately that they were putting it into a printing press. So you get these words that it's like, what on earth is that? And then if you read it out loud, sometimes you can actually pick what the word is, because of the accent from the region that the person who was writing it was from. So they were writing it the way it sounded for them, which may not be how it sounds for us, but when you hear it spoken, your brain goes, ooh, this means that. I can hear it. because your brain is very, very good at recognizing patterns. One of the other patterns your brain is very good at recognizing is faces, which is why, as a streamer, I have my face on my channel icon, because it means that people have more direct sense of connection with that sort of thing. Now, I understand about some people need to have privacy. I understand that some people, for their work situations, can't make themselves visible as an actual representation of themselves. So some people will do PNG tubing, which is where it's an image that has a couple of different movements or states, where a mouth open, mouth shut, eyes open, eyes shut type of thing, but it's just an image. Other ones will actually have a moving graphic version of their face, and it will be, as they talk, it will respond and move the way they actually are, and that's often often referred to as VTubing, because it's video done for things like YouTube and stuff like that. And so I'm all good with that. But when you're representing yourself online, people have a more sense of connection when they're first looking at a whole bunch of faces to join up with, or a whole bunch of channels to join up with. If you just got initials, not necessarily, unless it looks like a rude word and the person who's looking is interested in rude words, then they'll come and check out your channel. The rest of the others are just going to pass it by if it's just a bunch of letters or an icon or like a gaming style symbol or something like that, unless it's very specific to them. Whereas other people, if they see something that has a face but it's just done a little bit differently, that draws them more, because our brain is a pattern recognizing computer. That's part of what it does. That's how we learn language. That's how we learn physically how to do things, is because the brain works on pattern recognition and repetition. Just randomly, bit of education there for you. Totally unnecessary. The other one I want to give you a shout out for is Goriki. Specifically because Goriki is one of my mods, and why did that not come through? No, because I didn't do a shout out. Sorry, I'm looking at why it's not. There you go. Goriki is one of my mods, but also one of the Codex readers, and is brilliant at what he does. He's also a teacher, and that's what I was going to tell you about the Codex readers. Is we are such a diverse bunch of people. We have readers, we have people who are professional readers. They are audiobook narrators and things like that. We have people who are actors. We have people who are teachers, and other ones who are librarians, people who travel, spend most of their time traveling and use mobile data for their streams. We have people who use really, really go fast computers and play lots of games as well, and make the most of their fancy gear, and other people who use old technology and keep it going as long as possible. And I love the diversity that we have. We've probably also got other forms of diversity in the group too. But I don't ask what people get up to and how they identify themselves, so it doesn't really matter, because we're enjoying stories. That's what we're doing. Old technology. I have an iPad mini, first generation iPad mini. It was a hand-me-down gift. It was a gift, definitely, but it was also a hand-me-down. It had been in use for quite some time first. But I love the fact that I can keep that working, keep it in use, keep it out of the trash or the recycle. Because the componentry in it is so old that there's no way they're going to use it for anything, and nobody takes enough time to pull something this old apart to melt it down into minerals, because the amount of effort for it compared with the quality of what's still in it, it's just not worth it. Stuff that we send off to be recycled, there's less recycling than what we would really like there to be. We would like to think it's recycled. Yeah, Goriki's saying, I think we have no less than 5 countries represented. Indeed. There are quite a number of North Americans. When I say North Americans, I'm specifically meaning people from the United States of America and also Canada. And technically, I think Mexico kind of fits in with North America. I'm not so familiar with North American geography. But also, we have a Canadian who was in Scotland for a while for family reasons. their immediate family, educational reasons, which was fabulous, which meant that they were functioning in a different time zone to where a lot of the North American streamers are. So Goriki is in Japan. So he is, depending on summer, winter, etc., theoretically 3 hours behind me. If it's winter for me and summer for him, I think it's 2 hours. If it's summer for me and winter for him, it's probably 4 hours. But it means that you get a little bit more continuity through the day and night as to whether or not there are going to be other people who are actually streaming at a time that suits you. So I'm quite familiar with not having lots of people in my stream, because a lot of New Zealanders, when they want to watch streaming, are usually watching in their evening. So for me, it's not evening yet. So a lot of my friends who like watching streams who are working during the day, they will watch after I've finished. Goriki's saying only 2 days left of summer, and then a very sad emote. Indeed. And lots of bad weather over there in Japan at the moment. It's typhoon season, I gather. We don't have that. We have cyclones, which are nowhere near as intense. Well, they can get intense, but they're not as common nor as intense as typhoons in the Far East Asian sector of the world. To us in the Pacific Rim, Asia is the northwestern part of the Pacific Ocean. To the European world, Asia is places like Turkey, and it's like, and India. And when you go and live over somewhere like in England and you refer to Asia, and they're like, what are you talking about? I've never been, I've been to Turkey. What are you talking about? And then you discover that they're meaning places like Turkey and Syria and stuff like that, because I suppose biblically, really old historically, that was the stuff that was over towards the east and nearer to the equator. East of them in Central Europe and Western Europe, that's what they called Asia. Whereas living here on the Pacific, around the edges of the Pacific Ocean, to us, Asia is China, Japan, Korea, Vietnam, Cambodia. My brain is going fried. There's a whole lot of other ones too. Malaysia. Yeah, lots. Lots of other countries, a way bigger region than what Europe thinks of as Asia. Anyway, so if I'm referring to Asia, I'm referring to China and Japan and those other sort of countries, and that part of the Northwestern Pacific and bordering onto those other countries as well. So what about we get on with reading? Where did we get up to? They had got away from Puddleby on the Marsh. They had shipwrecked on the coast of Africa. They had been held in place by the king of a particular region who wanted them to do something for him, I think, and they wanted to escape because they wanted to go and heal the monkeys in the kingdom of the monkeys, which is why they were going to Africa, apart from escaping from the debt collectors. And they managed to escape in the middle of the night and got across this gorge, this great big chasm which had a river at the bottom that the humans couldn't get across normally, but the monkeys formed a bridge, and the other animals and Doctor Dolittle crossed this monkey bridge, and now they're supposedly safe over in the kingdom of the monkeys, and we're going to wait and find out what happens. And I do have a puzzle. If anyone wants a puzzle, tell me that you want the puzzle and I'll make it live. Don't just put the puzzle link and puzzle command in yet until I've actually got that live. I need to know if you're interested or not. Anyway, deflating balloon. Yeah, that's my brain at the moment. I think we should read. I think that's it. Oh, I didn't give you my tips. Jonathan would be so disappointed. I have 3 tips that I give anyone who's new here, and a reminder for everyone who's been here before. First tip, drinks. Second tip, snacks. Third tip, comfort. So, first tip, make sure you have some water to drink handy, and make sure you drink it. This is the one that I wave at you so it doesn't splash everywhere all over my desk, and it's my favourite bottle. But I don't usually drink from it these days because I wave my hands around so much it would spill and make a horrible mess. Always have water handy. Always have drinkable water handy, because your body accesses it quicker than any other rehydration, because it doesn't have to digest it. It can just suck it straight through your cell walls if it needs to, or something like that. Anyway, so always have a drink handy. I've also got my favourite drink, which is coffee. I've got a little bit left in my mug. I don't want to have to throw it away when I've finished reading because it's too late in the day. So drinks, I don't know what your favourite drink is, but do have some handy if you're allowed to have it handy. If you're working and your favourite drink is a triple vodka martini or something like that, you probably aren't meant to have a drink handy while you're listening. I'm sorry about that. But that's between you and work, if you are at work. Snacks. What do we have in the treat time snack jar? Let's have a look. Haha, there you go. There's my QR code, which probably doesn't scan because it's so small on the screen for you. And if you are watching on your phone, you won't be able to scan it anyway. That's just a coffee code, which means that you can give me a tip if you want to. Snacks today, we have some English wine gums. So they look like this. I'm just going to take a few out of the packet. Yes, I'm rattling them in my microphone. Call this the ASMR section of my stream. Get a collection of these out of here so you can see them, the sort of things that they are. So these are what we call wine gums. I'm trying to get them so you can see them. So they're all sorts of different colours, mainly fruity colours, dark purple and red and orange and yellow and a whitish colour and green. And they are chewy jelly type lollies, but not the super chewy ones like the Haribo Golden Bears. I like them, but they're a little bit tough. These ones have more texture to the chew. So they're jelly, but they're actually got some more, it holds together without just being that hard chew that the Haribo ones are. It's hard to describe. It's like it's got something else in them. And most of the sort of lollies that the family likes actually are those sort of ones. They've got a little bit of texture when you're chewing. Not lumpy texture, just satisfying. So that's our snacks for today in my house, for me. And comfort. So I've got two things for comfort today. I've got my purple blanket. That's not meant to be changing the brightness level. I really have to find out where that's happening from. I thought I sorted it out before, but it's still doing it. So I'm going to write that down. This is my bonus tip for you, even though I haven't actually explained all of my original tips. My bonus tip is have some paper and a pencil or pen handy, because we are often coming across words that we don't know and we want to write them down so we can look them up. I often write them down and look them up. Some of them are words I do know, but I want to share with you guys a more accurate definition of. So normally I just wave this cushion at you when I say comfort. But I've got my blanket today because it's a bit cool. I've got my warm socks on. I've got my blanket on my lap over my legs just to keep me warm. I've taken my cardigan off because my arms were getting too hot. Right, so let's get on with reading. We've had the 3 tips. Thank you, Jonathan, for the reminder. I know you didn't actually give it to me today, but usually he does if I forget. Or he gets excited when I say 3 tips. Anyway, which is all good. We're getting there. Let's read. I've got the book. I've got the pictures ready. Do you want to have a jigsaw? I'll give you a minute or two. Do you want me to put the jigsaw up? If you do, then say yes, please, or jigsaw, please, or something like that, and then I will actually activate it, and then you can use the command for it. There are a few commands that I use on my channel, which are available for most people to use. There's not many that are specifically mod-only commands. There's probably some function where you put exclamation commands, and then it will come back with a link to my Stream Elements commands, and you will then see which ones you can use. Right, so here we go. The Story of Doctor Dolittle by Hugh Lofting. The 8th chapter, The Leader of the Lions. Here we go. John Dolittle now became dreadfully, awfully busy. He found hundreds and thousands of monkeys sick. Gorillas, orangutans, chimpanzees, dog-faced baboons, marmosets, grey monkeys, red ones, all kinds, and many had died. The first thing he did was to separate the sick ones from the well ones. Then he got Chi-Chi and his cousin to build him a little house of grass. Now, Chi-Chi is the monkey that has been living in Doctor Dolittle's house in Puddleby-on-the-Marsh in England, southern England. And got him and his cousin to build him a little house of grass. The next thing, he made all the monkeys who were still well come and be vaccinated. So obviously he knew what it was that was making them sick, because otherwise you can't vaccinate against it. And for 3 days and 3 nights, the monkeys kept coming from the jungles and the valleys and the hills. Sorry, I will see if we have a picture here for you. Yes, we do. This is great big, there's the grass hut that they made, and then there's this long line of monkeys all the way going back, and then through into the hills. Right, I'll get that one out of the way and carry on reading for you. And for 3 days and 3 nights, the monkeys kept coming from the jungles and the valleys and the hills to the little house of grass where the doctor sat all day and all night, vaccinating and vaccinating. Anyone who grew up in my generation would understand the value of that, because when I was a kid, you could get mumps and you could get chicken pox and you could get measles and you could get German measles. And some of those things as a child are not quite so bad, but if you get them as an adult because you didn't get them as a child, you can get very, very ill from them and have some rather nasty side effects because of the effect of those illnesses as an adult, what they do to you as an adult rather than what they would do to you as a child. One of the forms of measles, one of the boys I was at school with was quite deaf, not profoundly deaf. He was deaf enough that he couldn't hear to understand without hearing aids, but he could still actually hear something, whereas profoundly deaf, not even that. And the only reason he was deaf was because his mother had got this particular form of measles when she was pregnant with him. And the effect of it on the baby inside her was to mean that his ears didn't develop properly and he was deaf. I think that's how it worked. Anyway, so that doesn't tend to happen so much in countries nowadays who have MMR, which is measles, mumps and rubella vaccine. There you go. So vaccinations actually are useful and helpful and positive, regardless of the fact that there are some people who really think they're not. But that's okay, they don't understand science, do they? Not really. Right, we'll carry on. Rant over. Right, so he was vaccinating and vaccinating. Then he had another house made, a big one with lots of beds in it, and he put all the sick ones in this house. But so many were sick, there was not enough well ones to do the monkey. There were not enough well ones to do the nursing. That's what it was. So he sent messages to the other animals, like the lions and the leopards and the antelopes, to come and help with the nursing. But the leader of the lions was a very proud creature, and when he came to the doctor's big house full of beds, he seemed angry and scornful. Oh dear. The doctor is going to have to be diplomatic, maybe. "Do you dare to ask me, sir?" he said, glaring at the doctor. "Do you dare to ask me? Me, the king of the beasts? To wait on a lot of dirty monkeys? Why, I wouldn't even eat them between meals." Actually, I will give you your jigsaw. And if you put in exclamation jigsaw or exclamation puzzle or exclamation PZ or PUZ, one of those, you will get the invite to be able to play that online. So there you go. "Do you dare to ask me, sir?" he said, glaring at the doctor. "Do you dare to ask me? Me, the king of the beasts, to wait on a lot of dirty monkeys. Why, I wouldn't even eat them between meals." Although the lion looked very terrible, the doctor tried hard not to seem very afraid of him. "I didn't ask you to eat them," he said quietly, "and besides, they're not dirty. They've all had a bath this morning. Your coat looks as though it needs brushing, badly. Now listen, and I'll tell you something. The day may come when the lions get sick. And if you don't help the other animals now, the lions may find themselves left all alone when they are in trouble. That often happens to proud people." "The lions are never in trouble. They only make trouble," said the leader, turning up his nose, and he stalked away into the jungle feeling he had been rather smart and clever. That kind of ties in with the proud people bit, I think. Then the leopards got proud too and said they wouldn't help, and then of course the antelopes, although they were too shy and timid to be rude to the doctor, like the lion, they pawed the ground and smiled foolishly and said they had never been nurses before. And now the poor doctor was worried frantic, wondering where he could get help enough to take care of all these thousands of monkeys in bed. But the leader of the lions, when he got back to his den, saw his wife, the queen lioness, come running out to meet him with her hair untidy. "One of the cubs won't eat," she said. "I don't know what to do with him. He hasn't taken a thing since last night." And she began to cry and shake with nervousness, for she was a good mother, even though she was a lioness. So the leader went into his den and looked at his children, two very cunning little cubs, lying on the floor, and one of them seemed quite poorly. Then the lion told his wife quite proudly just what he had said to the doctor, and she got so angry she nearly drove him out of the den. "You never did have a grain of sense," she screamed. "All the animals from here to the Indian Ocean are talking about this wonderful man and how he can cure any kind of sickness and how kind he is, the only man in the whole world who can talk the language of the animals, and now, when we have a sick baby on our hands, you must go and offend him. You great booby, nobody but a fool is ever rude to a good doctor. You—" and she started pulling her husband's hair. "Go back to that white man at once," she yelled, "and tell him you're sorry, and take all the other empty-headed lions with you, and those stupid leopards and antelopes. Then do everything the doctor tells you. Work your hardest, and perhaps he will be kind enough to come and see the cub later. Now be off, hurry. I tell you, you're not fit to be a father." And she went down into the den. She went into the den next door, where another mother lion lived, and told her all about it. So the leader of the lions went back to the doctor and said, "I happened to be passing this way and I thought I'd look in. Got any help yet?" "No," said the doctor, "I haven't, and I'm dreadfully worried." "Help's pretty hard to get these days," said the lion. "Animals don't seem to want to work any more. You can't blame them, in a way. Well, seeing you're in difficulties, I don't mind doing what I can, just to oblige you, so long as I don't have to wash the creatures. And I have told all the other hunting animals to come and do their share. The leopards should be here any minute now. Oh, and by the way, we've got a sick cub at home. I don't think there's much the matter with him myself, but the wife is anxious. If you're around that way this evening, you might take a look at him, will you?" Then the doctor was very happy, for all the lions and the leopards and the antelopes and the giraffes and the zebras, all the animals of the forests and the mountains and the plains, came to help him in his work. There were so many of them that he had to send some away, and only kept the cleverest. And now very soon the monkeys began to get better. At the end of the week, the big house full of beds was half empty. Sorry, the grammar was a bit odd. At the end of the week, the big house full of beds were half empty. The beds were half empty. The big house was half empty. Sorry. And at the end of the second week, the last monkey had got well. Then the doctor's work was done, and he was so tired he went to bed and slept for 3 days without even turning over. Yeah, it did say he'd been vaccinating day and night, didn't it? And that's the end of chapter 8. And we shall have another chapter in a minute, but I'm going to have something to drink. What about you? Good idea. And if you didn't get it ready before, off you go and grab it now, quickly. Mm. And I just realized I didn't thank Goriki Mod for following me. Sorry about that. I've got a few new followers in the last few days. Another one is Hobbitzes, and thank you if you're here or if you're watching the VOD. That's great. Thank you so much. And Smacktus and a few others. Oh, hi Squibble. So good to have you here. I'm glad you're having a break. I do hope that you're taking things a little bit more quietly, not quite so much hard pressure on yourself to get lots of time on screen. Squibble does awesome artwork. I'm just going to give you a shout out for her. Yes, it worked. Yay. So she often streams in the morning in New Zealand time. She also does one afternoon stream, I think. Chilling and drawing right now. Wonderful. And it's lovely to have you here. There's various of us New Zealand streamers who will pop into each other's streams at whatever time of day we can manage it. And it's nice to be able to just sort of, have some company along the way. She does illustrations for books and stories and all sorts of things, and they're beautiful. You have to go and look at them. Please do. And give her a follow as well. And she's got a really cool Discord server with all sorts of different things that go on there. Like you get posts when there's videos from different YouTube people put out an interesting video about things, and there's discussions about different sorts of animals and birds and all sorts of stuff. It's fantastic. Anyway, which is actually quite in line with what we're reading at the moment, because we're reading Doctor Dolittle. And I've had my drink. Yes, I'll have one of my lollies. Sweets, if you're in England. Candy, if you're North American. So, what am I going to have? I'm going to have one of these ones. Go for it, Blue. So, sorry, it's quite sweet. I know they're sweet, but I was just suddenly swallowed a mouthful of very sweet. I do hope that the weather isn't too noisy for my microphone. I can't actually do anything to filter it out completely at the same time as when I'm talking. I can get it so that the microphone isn't picking up on the sound, possibly, when I'm not talking, but it's always going to be there while I'm talking. Just one of those things. I'm not in a studio, I'm in my office, and my office is right under the roof. This is the ceiling right here, and it's a sloping ceiling, and on the other side of that plywood is insulation, and then there's a corrugated iron roof. So, colour steel roof. So, yeah, I'm right underneath it, right next to where the weather is. Sorry about that, Squibble. I'll just see if I can allow that to go through. Oh, thank you, Gariki. I've just figured out what I'm meant to do when it gives a timeout on somebody when it's not meant to give a timeout on them. Yeah. So, what Squibble had said was, and I'm going to paste it in for you just because otherwise you won't see it. This is what Squibble said. Was rewatching House of Arden, which is a story I've just finished reading recently, and I must say I love the description of the paint box. I like that Edith Nesbit appreciates full pans in a paint box and sable brushes. I was thinking of you when I was reading that, but I was thinking like, absolutely, I hope Squibble was because I don't think you were actually in stream at the time I was reading that day. And I didn't know if you were going to actually get a chance to listen to the stories afterwards. And then I found out that you'd actually spent hours and hours watching the VODs when you weren't feeling very well. So I was delighted that you had a chance to anyway. Yeah, the descriptions of the paint box, I love the fact that she obviously at some stage when she was growing up had been given a paint box, and it had those nasty little wee pellets of paint that really don't do very much. They're usually very hard and very low quality, and they don't dissolve in the water, unlike some paint boxes where if it's a solid paint version, it's actually got a nice sized, it fills in the whole of the section for that color, is a nice, well, I'm scaling it up obviously. If it's a little wee section that's scaled up to be this big, that the paint is for that color, then the paint will be this thick, and it will be one where you put the water on it and let it sit and soak in a bit, and then you rub your brush in it, and it picks up so much of that color from that. It's just one version of it. Anyway, so Squibble, because the artwork she does is very appreciative of decent art materials. Just letting you know that in case you hadn't figured that one out. So there you go. Right. My brain is just all over the place today. I've got in my tags that I'm neurodivergent. What that means is not neurotypical, not just your average way of brain functioning. So in our family, there's a really broad mix. We have people who are dyslexic. That's actually a brain function, the way it does or doesn't work. It's not an illness. It's not an ailment. Some people see it as a limitation. It can be a limitation, but there's a whole range of thank you. It's a good idea to have that quote in there. It will be so used, I'm sure. It's the ability, the brain's ability to mix up words as you're reading them off the page. Some people, the words will jump around as you try to concentrate on them. Some people, the letters within a word will jump around and get all mixed up and be like buzzy. A lot of people think of dyslexia as being just that, but it's in partnership with other aspects of the way you think. So the ability to imagine something when someone's telling you what it is, a physical object. So imagine a birthday cake, if you will. Imagine it on a plate. Now imagine cutting a slice out of that and putting that onto another plate. Now imagine tipping that slice over on its side and you're looking down on it. Now imagine what the type of topping is, the frosting on that cake, and the type of sprinkles on that cake. Now imagine turning it around. Imagine looking through the plate as if it was transparent at it from a different angle, from underneath. Imagine looking at it as if you were almost inside that cake. Now people who are dyslexic have a very, very strong ability to do all of that sort of visualization in their heads without having someone to show them how to do it. It's really strong inside their head. The ability to just, boom, there it is, turn it around, see it from a different angle, all this sort of stuff. They are very, very strong at that sort of thinking, and it seems to go very strongly as a partnership type of thinking with the words jumbling around. I'm not quite sure why, it just does. That's one of the aspects of dyslexia, the brain function. So often when something gets a label, it's labeled because of the problems it can cause, because of the disorder that it represents. But in actual fact, it's a whole package of things. So people who are dyslexic are often brilliant at big picture thinking for business ideas, project ideas and things like that. They might need somebody who's brilliant at line by line reading and interpreting of information to be part of their team, but often the person who is very good at the fine detail reading and understanding and making sure all the I's are dotted and the T's crossed and we meet all the legal requirements, often those sort of thinkers are not so good at saying, here's an idea, why don't we do this and make something big and do it like this and describe it and get people inspired about it. We need both sorts of thinking. So I'm just going to go back to the quote here, the chat here. Goriki says, I can't be imagining cake right now. I have to go shopping. Yeah, now make sure you eat something before you go shopping. A good housewife will make that recommendation to you. Before you go grocery shopping, make sure you are not hungry. Otherwise, when you come home and you go to make meals later on in the week, you will find that most of the food that you have is junk and not proper tummy filling meal food. But you can get cake as well. As well, not just. Yes, buy cake, says Squibble. Hashtag enabler, absolutely. Because Go Ricky had said, I'm totally buying cake now. Go Ricky pokes Stream Elements to time out Squibble design again. Yeah, I'm still learning never go shopping. Have you seen how old I am? I'm still learning that some days. That's where it's good to actually have a list if you can. In fact, here's a shout out to my favourite app on my phone for when I'm doing grocery shopping, not a person. I'm just going to find it for you. It's called That Shopping something or other, and I'm going to see if my camera will actually, so it looks like a little purple shopping basket with coloured dots in it. And it's the simplest, most straightforward shopping app. That shopping list, that's what it is. And come back. There you go. That shopping list. Yeah, come on. Focus. That shopping list. The colour I've got on the background at the moment is the colour I've chosen. So you can back it up to the cloud. You can share it with people, so they can see what your current list is. So if they're also part of your flat and you are all wanting to contribute to a list of groceries that need to be got, they can all add to the list. Things like that. It is a basic list app, but it's specific to grocery shopping. You can change what the categories are. You can create second, third, fourth lists, whatever. It was really handy during COVID lockdown, our first COVID lockdown here in New Zealand, because we were only allowed one person from a household to go into the supermarket at a time. And so somebody would be sitting in the car to help with unloading, because you weren't allowed to take grocery bags in either, because that makes you take too long there and you're taking extra germs in with you and all that sort of stuff. And so somebody would be sitting in the car and they'd think of something that you needed to get. And so instead of just texting you, don't forget this, and if you're really concentrating and you're wearing a mask and you've got the gloves, because the first lockdown we were all wearing gloves as well, and all sorts of stuff like that, where you get to a point where you're overwhelmed, so you ignore your text messages. It would just add on, as long as you're online, it would just add on to the list what the new thing was on the list. Very handy. And then it's got check marks, and you can tap in the checkbox, and once you've done that, it takes it off your current list and puts it in the list of things you've already put in the trolley, effectively. Really, really handy. I love it. And I also make other lists for like the hardware store and things like that. Which means that there are something, because you can just type in something to get, and it may not be on their standard items, but then if it will save it for you. There you go. How to life with Jev. So what are you getting with your groceries today, Go Ricky? Anything in particular, apart from cake? I don't think I've got any other life tips for you right at the moment, but let's get on with the next chapter, shall we? A lot of fun here. Just sent this to my mum. Q, what did you send to your mum? A list of what things to get? Anyway, let's get on with the story. Sorry about that. The 9th chapter, in case you hadn't picked it, today's jigsaw puzzle, the current jigsaw puzzle, is a lion. I wonder why. Right. The app, yes, it's fabulous. I love it. It's my favourite because it's simple. I've tried so many shopping apps, and that's the other thing, is if you put a quantity in when you're starting to type in what you want, it will actually put that as so it'll have the name of what you want, and then it'll have a quantity, like 2 of like 2 bottles of milk or 500 grams of something, and it'll put that in there for you if that's what the way you started to write it into the list. Otherwise, just put the items. That's what I do. And you can also change the sequence for where things are in your supermarket to suit that. Bakery. If your bakery is at the end, you don't want it up near the beginning of the list, because you don't want. I like working through the list in the order that I go through the supermarket. That way I don't forget things. Anyway, right. The Story of Doctor Dolittle by Hugh Lofting, and no, it's not a grocery shopping story. The 9th chapter, The Monkey's Council. Oh, what's this one going to do? Chi stood outside the doctor's door, keeping everybody away till he woke up, because the doctor slept 3 days and nights. Then John Dolittle told the monkeys that he must now go back to Puddleby on the Marsh, his town, his village over in England. They were very surprised at this, for they had thought that he was going to stay with them forever, and that night all the monkeys got together in the jungle to talk it over. Not yet, at least that's the sequel once they get some money. Absolutely. To talk it over, and the chief chimpanzee rose up and said, "Why is it the good man is going away? Is he not happy here with us?" None of them could answer him. Then the grand gorilla got up and said, "I think we all should go to him and ask him to stay." Hang on, I'm just going to see. I think I've got a picture of this. That's why I'm leaning forward, because I have my lovely book stand sits on the edge of my desk above my keyboard, but it just covers up the very bottom of my screen, and I need to see what I'm doing next on my story. I think it's that one. Yes, there you go. Illustration. There he is. Then the grand... Sorry, the wheels on my chair are just going weird at the moment. Then the grand gorilla got up and said, "I think we should all go to him and ask him to stay. Perhaps if we make him a new house and a bigger bed, and promise him plenty of monkey servants to work for him and to make life pleasant for him, perhaps then he will not wish to go." Then Chi got up, and all the others whispered, "Shh, look, Chi, the great traveller, is about to speak." And Chi said to the other monkeys, "My friends, I'm afraid it is useless to ask the doctor to stay. He owes money in Puddleby, and he says he must go back and pay it." And the monkeys asked him, "What is money?" Then Chi told them that in the land of the white men you could get nothing without money. You could do nothing without money. That it was almost impossible to live without money. And some of them said, "But can you not even eat and drink without paying?" But Chi shook his head, and then he told them that even he, when he was with the organ grinder, had been made to ask the children for money. Yes, wonderful on the puzzle. Very well done. Tom the lion, photographer Tambako the jaguar. It doesn't actually tell me where their gallery is. Anyway, I do have another puzzle, and I will actually get that going before I get on with the next story. Oops, sorry. I just need to get the link for it. That's what's missing. I'm going to give you this one. I'll get you the link in a moment. No, why are you saying that? Sorry. I copied the link for it, and I don't know why it's telling me it can't do it. Let's see. I must have not put the link in properly, because it does show up on my... Oh, okay, because it still had lion on the end of it. That's better. Let's go for Looking at how hard it is, let's go for about 120 or 130 puzzle pieces. 130. And we shall give it a not too dark a background so you guys can still see the pieces. I'll get you a link for it, and then I'll paste the link into the command center for you, which is over here. Link. There you go. Link is ready for you to use. Oops. There it is. Get that out of the way, and you can do the puzzle as soon as you're ready. Just in case. I am actually thinking, that was the other thing I was going to tell you before, I'm thinking about sticking a kind of like a clock thing somewhere on my overlay up here, just so it says what day of the week it is and what time of day it is, because I do have viewers all over the world, and often they have no idea whereabouts, why I'm talking about afternoon tea or dinner time or something like that, when it's like 10 o'clock at night or 2 o'clock in the morning for them. Depending on where you live and your contacts with people in other places, it's not uncommon to actually have no clue that people are in other places with different time zones. That's just the way it is. Right, we'll carry on with the story now. And the puzzle's there for you if you want to do it. Ha! Chi-Chi shook his head, and then he told them that even he, when he was with the organ grinder, had been made to ask the children for money. Oh dear, that's not fair, is it? Not if you're a monkey. And then the chief chimpanzee turned to the oldest orangutan and said, "Cousin, surely these men be strange creatures. Who would wish to live in such a land? My gracious, how paltry." Then, not poultry, but paltry. Difference. Poultry is like chickens and ducks and domestic bird life, which are used for eggs and meat. Paltry means rather meagre and skimpy and that sort of thing. Right, Paltry instead of Poultry. And yes, you did. I should have a disclaimer that says you are going to learn things when you come here, whether you want it or not. Anyway, then, sorry. Then Chi-Chi said, "When we were coming to you, we had no boat to cross the sea in and no money to buy food to eat on our journey. So a man lent us some biscuits, and we said we would pay him when we came back. And we borrowed a boat from a sailor, but it was broken on the rocks when we reached the shores of Africa. Now the doctor says he must go back and get the sailor another boat because the man was poor and his ship was all he had." Yes, that's true. I remember that bit. And the monkeys were all silent for a while, sitting quite still upon the ground and thinking hard. At last the biggest baboon got up and said, "I do not think we ought to let this good man leave our land until we have given him a fine present to take with him so that he may know we are grateful for all that he has done for us." And a little tiny red monkey who was sitting up in a tree shouted down, "I think that too." And then they all cried out, making a great noise, "Yes, yes, let us give him the finest present a white man ever had." Now they began to wonder and ask one another what would be the best thing to give him. And one said, 50 bags of coconuts, and another said, 100 bunches of bananas. At least he shall not have to buy his fruit in the land where you pay to eat. But Chi-Chi told them that all these things would be too heavy to carry so far and would go bad before half of it was eaten. This is true. "If you want to please him," he said, "give him an animal. You may be sure he will be kind to it. Give him some rare animal that they have not got in the menageries." And the monkeys asked him, "What are menageries?" It's not a word we use these days either. Then Chi-Chi explained to them that menageries were places in the land of the white men where animals were put in cages for people to come and look at, and the monkeys were very shocked and said to one another, "These men are like thoughtless young ones, stupid and easily amused." "Shh, It is a prison, he means. So then they asked Chi-Chi what rare animal it could be that they would give the doctor, one that the white men had not seen before. And the mayor of the marmosets asked, have they an iguana over there? But Chi-Chi said, yes, there's one in the London Zoo. So a menagerie is, I always thought a menagerie was a zoo. So let's look that word up. So does anyone have any tips for plugins to be able to do dictionary lookups when they're streaming? Menagerie, a collection of wild animals kept in captivity for exhibition. Maybe I should ask it, what's the difference? What is the difference between a zoo and a menagerie? A menagerie is a collection of captive animals, frequently exotic, kept for display, or the place where such a collection is kept, a precursor to the modern zoological garden. So what we call a zoo is actually a zoological garden. Zoo is just the short form of it. So menagerie is the collection, a zoo is the place where they are, technically, if you want to be like that about it. But it's, yeah, zoo is also official and menagerie can be shaded these days, definitely. Private collections of animals are often referred to as a menagerie in their slightly older usage. This really takes on a different light knowing they are self-aware. Absolutely, it's just like, these animals are talking about bringing another animal back to keep in a collection of animals in cages, but these are talking animals and they're suggesting it. Mind you, they do happen to know Dr. Dolittle very well, and that he would treat an animal that he took back with him with the utmost respect and care. So let's see where the story goes. I'm pretty sure I know where this one's going. Have they an iguana over there? And an iguana is a type of lizard. And if you didn't know that, I'm sorry. But now you do. Iguana. An iguana is a genus of herbivorous. Blah, blah, blah. Words have different emphasis in some places. And sometimes your brain is feeding you a line of pronunciation that just does not comply with the way the word's meant to be said. Iguana is a genus of herbivorous lizard that are native to tropical areas of Mexico, Central America, South America, and the Caribbean. Not to be confused with a goanna, which is an Australian lizard, which can get huge and can be quite scary. Yeah, if the places that the animals are kept are more like apartments than cells, it's not quite so much of a problem, is it? Yes, as long as they consent. Definitely, I agree. Right, so have they an iguana over there? But Chi-Chi said yes, there is one at the London Zoo. And another asked, have they an okapi? But Chi-Chi said yes, in Belgium, where my organ grinder took me 5 years ago. They had an okapi in a big city they called Antwerp. And I have heard of an okapi before, but it's probably not how it's said. O-K-A-P-I. Ah, the okapi, that's the one. It's the okapi, also known as the forest giraffe, Congolese giraffe, or zebra giraffe, is an, atriodactyl mammal that is endemic to the Northeast Democratic Republic of Congo in Central Africa, not America. Although the okapi has striped markings reminiscent of zebras, it is most closely related to the giraffe. Let's get you a picture because this is an animal you need a picture of. Definitely. Which is the most striking picture for you? Probably this one. Save image as... Yes, come along to Jev's reading and have lots of rabbit trails and Find out lots of new things that you've never heard of before, or you have, but nobody else has. Come along and you will be educated whether you want to be or not. Yeah, my kids didn't have a hope. They were homeschooled, and it was brilliant. We loved it, all of us. None of us have actually regretted them being homeschooled, which is good to know. And they have done really well at what they go Ricky's off to attempt shopping, especially cake-free shopping. No, get yourself a cake and then you won't go overboard with it. Just don't get only cake, that's all. Right, so there you go. That's an okapi. See, it's got the stripes like a zebra. It's also got them on the front legs as well, but it's actually more related to giraffe. The ears are much more like giraffe ears to what I'm expecting, and the shape of the face, I can see that there would be a family similarity. I've seen it. Okapi. This is a cool educational reading stream. Yeah, often they've got all these extra little bits and pieces in. I'm glad you're enjoying it. That's good to know, Aranel. Oh, by the way, for those of you who don't know, Aranel is one of our Codex readers. And I should one day actually have all of my Codex readers with a short form version of a shout out, so I don't have to try and remember how to spell their names. I'm sorry. And I'm writing that down. That's why I have my pencil and paper handy, just because otherwise I'm going to forget to do that later on. Right, carrying on. Aranel is a shimmering rainbow, absolutely. And yes, she is also the librarian. And she is currently playing Hugh too, which is why Goriki says she's a shimmering rainbow. Right, now I need to get this book to unlock again because my little aside has taken so long. Right, have they an okapi? Yes. In Belgium, where my organ grinder took me 5 years ago, they had an okapi in a big city they call Antwerp. Might be okapi, but I don't care. This is how we're saying it at the moment, isn't it? You're most welcome, Aranel. I love promoting the various readers and other people who I also know from different streams who just share what they do. It's wonderful. Such a neat bunch of people. Another said, have they a push me pull you? Then Chi-Chi says, no white man has ever seen a push me pull you. Let us give him that. So push me pull you is what most of us remember Doctor Dolittle for. I do from when I was watching it as a TV program. And I'm going to give you the spelling of it in here. Just because it's always amused me the way it's spelt. And that's the end of that chapter. And then we're going to have the next one. Right. There you go. Push me, pull you. So I'll have another drink of water and then we'll carry on. And no, I'm not eating something this time. I don't need that much sugar. I wonder what we're going to get if I type in push me pull you into the into Google search. If it's just going to be the illustrations or if it's going to be what they had from one of the movies or if somebody else has come up with other pictures. So you get people dressed up in llama costumes because one of the versions of the movies or TV series based it on a llama body form, although when you read the descriptions in the book it's slightly different. I wonder if this is the version that I saw. The guy who was in My Fair Lady, the movie with what's her name? That actress, I can't remember. Rex Harrison was Higgins. I think it's Higgins in My Fair Lady. And I think the version of Doctor Dolittle, I remember Rex Harrison. Rex Harrison, I think it is. Not Richard Harris. I don't think Richard Harris is quite old enough to have been in that one. I'll see if I can get this picture to come up. Open image and new tab. I want to see if there's a a clearer, bigger one. Google image search is a useful tool sometimes. So Rex Harrison was in this one, and I think this is the version that I remember as a kid. No, no other version of that. And apparently it's based on a llama. What? Go back here and save the image, and then I'll... And yes, this is the one where there was a little bit of comment about the fact that it's not actually the way that the character was properly described in the book, which we're going to find out about in a minute. Push me, pull you. Here we go. Come on, come on, come on. Where is it? Scrolling through. Here it is. Going past things like cabin bread and all that sort of stuff. Oh, it's tiny. I'm going to hop out of the way for a minute. I'm going to turn off my camera so you can see the picture. My Fair Lady is one of my favourite musicals. Yes, absolutely. So this image here, this Rex Harrison's face is what I remember actually, that look. And I remember seeing this animal and thinking it may have been sort of based on a real one, but I didn't know anything about llamas or alpacas at that stage, or any of the the South American grazing animals, which is what they are. But I could tell that it was people in a suit because of the way it was moving. So let's get on with reading about it. The 10th chapter, the rarest animal of all. Push-me-pull-yous are now extinct. That means that there aren't any anymore. But long ago, when Doctor Dolittle was alive, there were some of them still left in the deepest jungles of Africa, and even then they were very, very scarce. They had no tail but a head at each end and sharp horns on each head. They were very shy and terribly hard to catch. The black men get most of their animals by sneaking up behind them while they are not looking, but you could not do this with the push-me-pull-you, because no matter which way you came towards him, he was always facing you, and besides, only one half of him slept at a time. The other head was always awake and watching. This was why they were never caught and never seen in zoos. Though many of the greatest huntsmen and the cleverest menagerie keepers spent years of their lives searching through the jungles in all weathers for push-me-pull-yous, not a single one had ever been caught. Even then, years ago, he was the only animal in the world with two heads. So there you go. Ha. I was going to just check to see. No, I don't have it. I was just going to see if I thought I put in a command to do with old language use and racist comments and things like that. Not modern ones, but in old books. I'm pretty sure I have it, but I can't remember what the command is for it. But this is part of the educational side of our stream, because that's what I didn't do, is I didn't say, hi, I'm Jev, and explain why I read old books. I knew that introduction was really short. Anyway, one of the things you find as you read old books is that they will have attitudes that we don't hold to these days. So their attitudes about people from different cultures can be rather unacceptable, inappropriate, rough, wrong, a whole lot of things like that. And it's just one of those things that's the way life is. Attitudes in one country towards people of another country can be acceptable in the original country, but definitely not acceptable in the other country. That still happens. And so you'll get things like depictions of people living a certain way, which can be rather derogatory because it shows no respect for the effort needed to live and survive in that country in that time period. It will be a rather biased view from the outside with no lived experience. Most people who have lived experience in different cultures show a lot more respect towards that culture. So rather than actually removing that sort of thing from the stories that we read, there are one or two words I don't use, by the way. Other than that, I don't actually edit what I'm reading. They are effectively cold reads because even if I have read the book before, it will have been so long ago I don't remember exactly how the wording goes, and I'm reading the words as they appear on the page in front of me. Like I say, there are one or two words I don't use just because they are so inappropriate. I just don't use them. But other than that, I leave in some of the racist comments because that's the way the story was written, and often with a lot of the stories, that's actually addressed a little bit later on, and the author has actually left some of that information in because it can be an existing attitude which they do want to address, although they won't have a real hard preach on it. They will actually just sort of try to address people's attitudes about some of those things. Anyway, enough of that. We shall carry on with the actual reading. So that's why there's a reference to the black men and the way they hunt, because traditionally people who live in a country where there is a lot of wildlife and you are hunting it, but you don't have modern weaponry such as guns and things like that, you will use other techniques for hunting, and so that can mean that you surround a group of you will surround an animal, or you'll have an individual stalk through the bushes to get up to something. Some of those techniques are still used even within modern hunting contexts, such as if you're after wild goats in New Zealand, which are a pest animal. They do cause major problems. So some of those techniques are used, but the actual depiction of the people doing it is not necessarily to our tastes. We accept that that's the way it is and learn from it, learn to not have those attitudes ourselves, and we carry on. We can learn from anything. Okay? And wonderful, thank you for doing the puzzle. There's a lovely stream there, and it will tell me in a moment who did the photo of the stream. Tropical stream in Hawaii. There you go. Ja is the person who did the photo. And would you like another photo or to do a puzzle of or not? I've probably got another chapter's worth of reading in me since we're sort of only just into this chapter, and I'm probably going to chat a little bit more. I'll see what I can find. I did have another link here. I'm not quite sure what this one is, so I'm going to give it to you. How's that? Jigsaw. Properties. Ooh, that one looks like it. I'll bump it up slightly. That wasn't too hard, was it? Blue? It's offering me 119 pieces. I'm wondering if I should go up to 133. I will. I'm doing it anyway. There you go. There's our background. Get the link, and then I'll give it to you. Copy link. Paste it into my commands. I like that term I accidentally used before, command center. And save, and that is ready for you to go. If anyone wants to do that puzzle, that one is available. Right. Here we go. Oh, I didn't get the ad out of the way. Sorry about that. There you go. And then you can see what's going on with the puzzle. Right. So that's the bit about the fact that they refer to them as black people. It's just because to your average white European, who are very white, let me tell you that now. If you have never lived in England when it was an overcast country because of coal fires and things like that, and not particularly strong, bright sunshine, you will find that they are rather pale. So somebody who comes from a country where they live in the sun all the time and they are from certain African nations would actually appear to be quite black, very dark brown. But Yeah, it's the same with in the Pacific Islands, in Melanesia, which is the western South Pacific. Various groups of that general cluster of islands is called Melanesia. Polynesia is more the eastern South Pacific. Polynesia for many islands, Melanesia for dark islands or black islands, and then Micronesia, which is the northwest Pacific, which is Guam and all those other places like that. That's the small islands because they are tiny and they are very, very spread apart. So in Melanesia, if you're in places like Vanuatu, certain islands, the people there will actually have different intensities of skin colouring just because of the group of people that they come from within that island, within those islands. So the islands that are further north, it's not uncommon, not from sun exposure, just because they have had a particular group of genetics passed on. Their skin is a darker brown than the people in some of the further south places in Vanuatu. That's what it is. That's just what I saw. And you can see that there are certain tendencies of a face shape. You know how you can see a family similarity? Well, you also get national similarities in some places where people within a certain group within a nation will have a certain look. They will have a certain type of cheekbones or a forehead width or the type of jaw shape and that sort of thing. And you see these tendencies just because they have a lot more genetic connection with each other than other people in, say, another island group that's 500 miles away. Anyway, enough about the genetics. Let's carry on with the story. So even then, years ago, the Pushmi-Pullyu was the only animal in the world with two heads. So they were a species of animals, and he's now referring to he being not one individual, but a type of animal in that context. Well, the monkeys set out hunting for this animal through the forest, and after they had gone a good many miles, one of them found peculiar footprints near the edge of a river, and they knew that a Pushmi-Pullyu must be very near the spot. Then they went along the bank of the river a little way, and they saw a place where the grass was high and thick, and they guessed that he was in there. So they all joined hands and made a great circle around the high grass. Then the Pushmi-Pullyu heard them coming, and he tried hard to break through the ring of monkeys, but he couldn't do it. When he saw that it was no use trying to escape, he sat down and waited to see what they wanted. They asked him if he would go with Doctor Dolittle and be put on show in the land of the white men. But he shook both his heads hard and said, "Certainly not." They explained to him that he would not be shut up in a menagerie, but would just be looked at. They told him that the doctor was a very kind man, but hadn't any money, and people would pay to see a two-headed animal, and the doctor would get rich and would pay for the boat he had borrowed to come to Africa in. But he answered, "No, you know how shy I am. I hate being stared at." And he almost began to cry. Then for 3 days they tried to persuade him, and at the end of the third day he said he would come with them and see what kind of a man the doctor was first. So this is still within Africa. There you go. That makes a lot more sense. Sorry. Just checking to see if I'm ready for the photo yet. The picture yet. No, not quite. Nearly. So at the end of the third day, he said he would come with them and see what kind of a man the doctor was first. So the monkeys travelled back with the Pushmi-Pullyu, and when they came to where the doctor's little house of grass was, they knocked on the door. The duck, who was packing the trunk, packing up their baggage to go back to England, their luggage, said, "Come in," and Chi-Chi very proudly took the animal inside and showed him to the doctor. "What in the world is this?" asked John Dolittle, gazing at the strange creature. There you go. There's the monkey. There's the duck packing the trunk. There's Dr. Dolittle. There's Jip the dog and Gub Gub the pig. That's probably Chi-Chi actually. And there's the Pushmi-Pullyu. And I shall carry on reading. And I'm going to change hairbands just for now. I'm not going to wear this other one all the time. This is just a variation on it. There you go. Because the Push Me Pull You has a single horn on one end and it has two horns on the other, and we'll find out why. I'm not sure if it's in this chapter or another chapter. Anyway, I should probably sit a little lower so you can see it. Right, carrying on. Lord save us, cried the duck. How does it make up its mind? Because it's got two heads. It doesn't look to me as though it had any, said Jip the dog. Oh, that's a bit rude, isn't it? Talking about someone in front of them. This, doctor, said Chi-Chi, is the Push Me Pull You, the rarest animal of the African jungles, the only two-headed beast in the world. Take him home with you and your fortune's made. People will pay any money to see him. But I don't want any money, said the doctor. Yes, you do, said Dab Dab the duck. Don't you remember how we had to pinch and scrape to pay the butcher's bill in Puddleby? And how are you going to get the sailor the new boat you spoke of unless you have the money to buy it? Good question. I was going to make him one, said the doctor. Oh dear, I don't think I would trust that. Oh, do be sensible, cried Dab Dab. Where would you get all the wood and the nails to make one with? And besides, what are we going to live on? We shall be poorer than ever when we get back. Chi-Chi's perfectly right. Take the funny-looking thing along, do. Well, perhaps there is something in what you say, murmured the doctor. It certainly would make a nice new kind of pet. But does the, what do you call it, really want to go abroad? Yes, I'll go, said the Push Me Pull You, who saw at once from the doctor's face that he was a man to be trusted. Sorry, I got lost on the line, on the page. Do I have a command for that? Lost. I should have, if I didn't already. He saw from the doctor's face that he was a man to be trusted. You have been so kind to the animals here. Thank you, Squibble. It's actually a combination. It's a kid's one from the warehouse for less than $2 and a hair clip with unicorn hair in it, which I've just draped over it. See? I saw it and thought, oh, what fun. Now I've got to try and get it back together. Wrong side. I see. No, I say. My camera is in front of me, the view from my camera, and it's not reflected, so it actually looks the way other people see me rather than like a mirror. And most of the time it actually makes more sense, but every now and then I get it mixed up. Right, carrying on. Yeah, excellent. Lots of fun. And I got two of the headbands just because they're so cheap. It's actually a gorgeous iridescent glitter on them, but I don't like the pink because it's not my sort of pink, just because I don't suit that peachy colour because I tend to turn that colour myself. And so I got two because they were so cheap, and I'm going to paint them with something, and I don't know what, change the colour just to make them more fun, different fun, and maybe clip that bit of colour on. Yes, I love iridescent glitter, don't you? Oh, sorry, carrying on. Goriki's going to be wondering what on earth we got up to when he gets back with his cake. We want to know about the cake, don't we? Next time you see Goriki, ask him about cake. See what he got, if he did get cake. Right, the Push Me Pull You. Yes, I'll go, said the Push Me Pull You, who saw at once from the doctor's face that he was a man to be trusted. You have been so kind to the animals here, and the monkeys tell me that I am the only one who will do. But you must promise me that if I do not like it in the land of the white men, you will send me back. Why, certainly. Of course, said the doctor. Excuse me, surely you are related to the deer family, are you not? Yes, said the Push Me Pull You, to the Abyssinian gazelles and the Asiatic chamois on my mother's side. That's why one head of him has two horns, like deer horns, not the branchy ones, but the pointy ones. There's several different types of deer that just have a set of short, single pointy bit horns. Words, hard. My father's great grandfather was the last of the unicorns, hence the single horn on the other head. Let's go back to the illustration and see if it will show us those. No, not that one. This one. Here we go. Make it a little bit bigger so you can see the heads. So it's got two horns here. You can only see one of the eyes because the other one's round the corner of the head there. It's not a cyclops. So two horns on one head and one horn on the other. There it looks like it's only one because it's side on, as if it's perspective changing, whether it's like that or like that. But it's not. When you look at other pictures in the book, it's got one horn on one head and two horns on the other. That one's the chamois and the gazelle side of the family, and this one is the unicorn side of the family. It was a good excuse to wear a unicorn headband. Why not? Right. My father's great-grandfather was the last of the unicorns. Most interesting, murmured the doctor. And he took a book out of the trunk which Dab was packing and began turning the pages. Let us see if Buffin says anything. I notice, said the duck, that you only talk with one of your mouths. Can't the other head talk as well? Oh, yes, said the push-me-pull-you, but I keep the other mouth for eating, mostly. And that way I can talk while I'm eating without being rude. Our people have always been very polite. When the packing was finished and everything was ready to start, the monkeys gave a grand party for the doctor, and all the animals of the jungle came, and they all had pineapples and mangoes and honey and all sorts of good things to eat and drink. That sounds marvellous to me, doesn't it? Does it sound marvellous to you? Sorry, I'm just realised there's a couple of things I can do here. No, not that. No, not that. Trying to do. No. No, that's not where I thought I could do what I was doing. Right. Just ignoring that, and I'll carry on with what I was doing over here with the story. Right. Fold my hands. Keep them away from the mouse so I can read the story. Our people have always been very polite, said the push-me-pull-you. When the packing was finished and everything was ready to start, the monkeys gave a grand party for the doctor, and all the animals of the jungle came, and they had pineapples and mangoes and honey and all sorts of good things to eat and drink. After they had all finished eating, the doctor got up and said, My friends, I am not clever at speaking long words after dinner, like some men, and I have just eaten many fruits and much honey, but I wish to tell you that I am very sad at leaving your beautiful country, because I have things to do in the land of white men. I must go. After I have gone, remember never to let the flies settle on your food before you eat it, and do not sleep on the ground when the rains are coming. I hope you will all live happily ever after. Fairy tale ending of a speech. When the doctor stopped speaking and sat down, all the monkeys clapped their hands a long time and said to one another, Let it be remembered always among our people that he sat and ate with us here under the trees. For surely he is the greatest of men. And the grand gorilla, who had the strength of 7 horses in his hairy arms, rolled a great rock up to the head of the table and said, This stone for all time shall mark the spot. And even to this day, in the heart of the jungle, that stone is still there. And monkey mothers passing through the forest with their families still point down at it from the branches and whisper to their children, Shh, there it is. Look, where the good white man sat and ate food with us in the year of the great sickness. Then, when the party was over, the doctor and his pets started out to get back to the seashore, and all the monkeys went with him as far as the edge of their country, carrying his trunk and bags to see him off. And that's the end of the chapter. There you go. I'm not going to start the next one because it's got a very different feel to it. It's very much Doctor Dolittle, but it's a totally different style of story. the next chapter. It's called The Black Prince. Wonder how that one's going to go. I'm not going to worry about that one just now, but that's all right. Right, so are we going to take guesses as to whether or not Goriki is going to come back from his grocery shopping with cake? Should we take... I don't have votes set up in my... Actually, I wonder if I can. Strawberry cake, that sounds like a nice idea. Yeah. So... wonder what I'm sure he's going to come back with some sort of cake. I can't see him not coming back with cake. What other sorts of cake do they have in Japan? Cake. I'm going to have to ask him later on. That would be so funny. I'm going to have to give him heaps about it. Anyway, so I'm going to be... what am I going to do? There you go. I've just made Squibble a VIP, which means you shouldn't have problems with long messages. And also there was another one I was going to do that for. Coleslaw. There you go. You're most welcome. It just means that if you do have a tendency to write a little bit longer message, you get to have it go through without it being timed out and without me having to copy and paste it for you, because otherwise you wouldn't have any access to know what it was that you'd put there to put it back in again. So yeah, that will be interesting. I wonder if he is. Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't have a problem with you telling me about the paint box. My aunt had one. This is the aunt that, here we go to the filling in at the end of the end of the stream, because we've finished the chapter. I've told you before about an aunt that I had, a great aunt who I had, who lived in China for 7 years, haven't I? Well, she did. She lived in China for 7 years along with my uncle. She and my uncle travelled to China. He was, I think he was a biologist or a geologist or something like, I think it was geology, but as it relates to farming and agriculture and stuff like that. So when you are somewhere and you discover that they have dolomite stone, which is it's a form of like limestone, but it has calcium and it has magnesium in it. It can be used, if it's ground up into a powder, as a type of fertilizer, a mild fertilizer. It's a slow release. And so if you are in a country where some place has that sort of stone, and then other places kind of nearby but a different geology, the soil is missing those sort of minerals, you can quarry some of that stone, crush it to a powder, and then spread it on your ground over in the part of the country where they have problems with that missing from the soil, and then the rain and the action of insects and plants and time can break that down and release those minerals to be available to plants so that they grow better in that particular part of the country. So he did a bit of that sort of work, among other things. And he also helped with surveying some land to run a railway line. But I don't know exactly where and if it actually came about that it got built. But they were in China before it became a communist country. So shall we find out when China became communist? When did China become communist? The creation of the People's Republic of China completed the long process of governmental upheaval in China begun by the Chinese Revolution of 1911. No, it wasn't then, because she's not that old. Wasn't that old. Yay, all those little boats there. Wonderful, well done on the puzzle. let's see what it's called. Fishing boats at Santo Antao. I'm not quite sure where that is, and I don't know how to say it properly. Sorry. Um, anyway, so it wasn't at the start of the Chinese Revolution. The fall of mainland China to communism in 1949 led the United States to suspend diplomatic ties with the People's Republic of China for decades. So the communists entered Beijing in 1949. I know that the communists had started adding to it. Yes, well done, puzzlers, definitely. The communists had started to have an influence in different regions. They started in the more mountainous regions where people were definitely poorer, because some of their ideals that they were pushing at the time were actually ones that genuinely would have helped those people to collectively work together to make more of their opportunities than what was happening when they were under somebody who had a lot of control and a lot of power and received all the money, and then the people were left to starve even though they had to work. And so that was the idea, was that they would have a better life, but it sort of spread and morphed into different things to what it was originally meant to be. Anyway, so she was living in the country before it specifically became a communist country, and she and her husband were living there, and they travelled around and were working in different places. By trade, by degree, she was an entomologist, and an entomologist, not an etymologist. Etymology is words. Entomology is insects. Entomologist. So that means she studied insects when she was at university. So it possibly meant that she also was doing stuff to do with agriculture when they were over there, looking at what sort of what insect wildlife was around. Often it's a good way to tell how the plants are growing, what the general health of the agriculture is, because of the way the different insects are thriving or otherwise, which ones are dominant and all that sort of stuff. So it's a very useful skill. I knew a lady who used to do the same sort of thing, but it wasn't with insects. It was actually with creatures that are in the water. There are little insects that can skim around the surface of the water, but also go under the water. And there are different types of fish life. And she could tell you the health of a stream, whether the water in the stream was actually very healthy water, whether it had lots of chemicals in it from paddocks and stuff like that, fields, or whether it was just natural water that had come through from rain, from up in the hills, come down through the trees and all that sort of stuff. And it was healthy for the without having to do chemical tests on it. She could tell because of the type of fish and other wildlife that were living in the water. And so I'm very aware that there's a possibility of doing a similar thing with insect life in different places. If you know what insects naturally occur there when it's uninterrupted, you can also understand what the health of the growing conditions are for plants and also animals, bigger animals that can be used to sustain a community. So they were living over there in China for 7 years, and I was telling you that for some reason, and I can't remember why. And I thought it was something to do with Doctor Dolittle. No, they didn't have push-me-pull-yous over there. But they were specialists in their own way, and so they did travel around a bit, and they were doing all these things. And when they came back to New Zealand, I don't think she had actually lived in New Zealand before, but they came to New Zealand. She was originally English, he was New Zealander. He'd gone to England, done his degree over there. They'd travelled all over the place doing different things, came to New Zealand and settled over here. And I used to go up and spend time with them, helping to prepare miniature Chinese banquets, because that was something that they had been involved with when they were over there, because they were guests of honour in certain places. They were visiting aids in other places, helping people out where they could. There were some of the villages that they went to where, to an English mind, when you see a garden that is perfectly laid out and there's nothing out of place, there are no weeds, it's because it is highly cared for. some other parts of the world there are no weeds because they are eaten, because there are not enough other plants available to provide nourishment. And so they were visiting villages up in the mountains, and my aunt had commented, and this is where she discovered it. My aunt had commented to the person who was their guide, taking them there and introducing them and so on, that it was one of the tidiest villages that they had ever been to, and she was astonished at how impeccable it was. There were no plants out of place or anything like this. And then the person said, yeah, it's a mountain village. They're poor. They have nothing else. The weeds were eaten. They were not seen as weeds. They were just a naturally occurring plant that was made the most of. It wasn't that they had too much of something, and so therefore it just was able to grow and do its own thing. Anyway, weeds also can indicate what's happening with the soil. If certain types of weeds will grow in certain places because they have access to minerals that they can get that other plants can't get. All sorts of things. So yeah, pays to pay attention. And some aspects of this story always remind me of my aunt and uncle, my great aunt and my great uncle in China, because of the fact that they were responsive to what was around them, the situations that they were in. Anyway, enough of that. How about we finish there? Leave it at that for today. I am going to have a quick look and see if, let's have a look. See if I need to get the right thing going here. I'm on the wrong page. That's it there. Let's go and raid somebody if they're there, if they're online, the one that I want to go to. Yes, Hoot House is online. Let's go and raid Hoot House. They're the ones with the owl box. Great to have you here, Squibble, and everybody else. Love having you here. Let's go and raid Hoot House live stream. So when you get there, say hi to them, ask questions about the owls. There's usually somebody still awake there who will answer your questions. A bit later on in the stream, they'll probably be ready to go to sleep. The live stream runs anyway, but there's usually someone there. They're not necessarily noisy in chat, but if you arrive and say anything, I'll see if you can spot the horses too. If you say something in chat, they'll usually respond to you because there is somebody actually there. It's over in Southern California between San Diego and Los Angeles, but in a bit from the coast on the other side of some mountains that are there. So let's go over there and say hi to them and be supportive, be friendly, be helpful. And I first came across them because of Goriki. There you go. You find out all sorts of things from people that you don't expect to find out, because I didn't know he was into that sort of thing, like owls in the middle of the night. Cool. So we'll see you next time. Thank you for being here. Lots of fun to have you here and to be able to chat with you all. Next time being probably on Friday. That's 2 days from now, and 2 hours ago, whatever equivalent that is, and you can have a look at that on my schedule. And if you're over on YouTube watching this, please give it a like and say hi in the comments. That would be great. Thanks. So yeah, let's say see you later. See you next time. We're heading off to Hoot House. In the meantime, happy reading. Bye.